Good morning. It is time for Coffee Talk. It is Sunday. Grab your coffee, grab your mug or your tea, whatever it is. We're going to talk a little bit about tanks, try to keep it short so I can actually get this thing uploaded. Apologize if the resolution isn't great because I've got to step it down a little bit to get it out of here via my phone hotspot. Two things. Number one, the Advent calendar thing is going on and you have to accept the missions daily. The Advent calendar should come up when you log in the first time of the day. They fixed that part. At least I got it today. The second way to get to it that I know of is to click on the Lorraine or whatever tank it is that's for sale in the background each day. Click calendar, that little button there, and it will come up to the Advent calendar. There's the mission button right there. You click that and it will say mission accepted. And there's no way to find out what the mission is until you go to the missions tab. I'm not going there. Okay, second thing, what we're going to talk about today. Nona Manidis had a great question/suggestion. Said, hey, with all this improved equipment people are buying because, hey, we just got a bunch of bonds. Remember that? We just got a gift, T50-2, if you were old enough, and some bonds. Pretty much everybody, I believe, got bonds. What about equipment? What about improved equipment? And I thought, well, this would be a great discussion. Let's talk about equipment just a little bit and what it does and how you know. And I'm going to try to keep it on the level of what it does in the game for you, numbers wise, not necessarily give you a big long discussion about what dispersion is. Frankly, I have a decent grasp of what it is, but not amazing. All right, I am not a physicist. I am not an armaments guy. Essentially, and I'll concentrate on dispersion a bit because that's an interesting one. That's essentially accuracy. Not exactly, but yes, accuracy. The tightness of the grouping of your shot. There's a lot of things that affect that. Basically, each tank has a value for whichever gun it is that is on the tank. And in this game, that takes into account the whole weapon system. Okay, so each gun in a static mount will have X dispersion. Okay, there's other things than the gun. Barrels heating, wind. I won't go into the rest of it. And I'll be quite frank, I don't know all of it. Obviously, good old the hand of God, gravity has something to do with it as well. And ranges, yada yada. Anyway, each gun has a certain dispersion in this game when mounted on a tank. Excuse me. There are a couple things that affect it, and there are some things that do not. So there's dispersion. That's the grouping inside a ring at 100 meters, which is what they do in this game. Obviously, not every shot's at 100 meters. So that value is going to change as far as the distance between the center, where you're pointing the pip or the little dot in the middle. So there's dispersion, and then there's aim time, which brings the accuracy down to the maximum possible dispersion for your tank. Now, it's interesting because the crew is actually, I'm going to explain this the way I kind of understand it. The crew is actually part of the weapon system, so you can actually improve your dispersion past the gun's dispersion, at least the value that it shows you, which is weird and not quite right, but that's essentially what's going on. So let's talk about how that works. Here is the comparison tool. I use this for all of my reviews, and it's a great tool, and it's a great way to find this question out. So if you're going, typing on the forum or thinking, hey, Guido, what's the deal? You can actually go in here and see the numbers move. And so I'm a visual guy. If I can see stuff move, I think that's great. So let's take a look at this. I've got a couple big derpy tanks here. Number one, and I'm not sure why this is. If you go to the tank here and you click and you go vehicle details, you will find that the JPZ-100, and I'm using that one because the numbers move a lot. It's a very large and accurate gun. That it is showing here a dispersion at 100 meters of 0.34. Okay? Interesting. It doesn't really say for what. Now, this is a stock tank from the very beginning. Okay? Actually, let me check something because I may have just answered my question. Nope, none of those change dispersion. Never mind. Okay. Stream of consciousness. In any event, this shows 0.34. This is what it is advertised as on the card. On the KV2, which is, where's that bad boy? We go here, vehicle details. It shows a 0.55. Okay, on the KV2. Now he has, oh, wait a minute, I may be able to answer the question. We're going to demount that. I just spent 10 gold for you guys, just so you know. All right, this is all in the name of science. This may be the answer that I was looking for. 0.56, there you go. The values here are actually moving according to the equipment that I have on this tank. That's okay, there you go. That's what is happening. Because the question I had is when I went into the comparison tool, and these are the things you got to be careful about when you're looking at things and deciding what the comparison does. That was showing the value for that tank out there. When I went into my configure tool, I had configured this tank with nothing on it, no vents, 100% crew, and it was giving me a dispersion value of 0.58, so that's what was throwing me off. That's fantastic. All right, very good. So we've answered that question. Now we get into the comparison tool in the KV2 and we say, all right, what are the things, what does equipment do? What are the things that change my dispersion? All right, the crew, remember I mentioned that. What helps the crew? Brothers in arms and vents, all right? Rammer doesn't help dispersion, it helps reload time. Gun laying drive does not help dispersion, not the maximum dispersion, but it does give me less movement and otherwise dispersion to reduce. We'll get into that in just a minute. Okay, so we're looking at this and we've got a 0.58. So let's go ahead and give brothers in arms to this crew. There we go. We've dropped dispersion down to 0.56. The gun is, air quotes, more accurate. Okay, let's just back up. 100% crew shows at 0.58. If the crew is terrible at 50%, I can get all the way up to 0.74. That is bad. All right, 75%, 0.65, 100%. 0.58. Fantastic. I'm going to dump brothers in arms. That helps X percentage. What is it? Doesn't say. Was it 5%? Anyway, it helps. Remember, we're trying to keep this in terms of what the game does for you. It doesn't really matter what the percentage is if I go into the tool and go, oh, it gives me down to 0.56. Now, if you're a math guy and you want to know, then by all means, go for it. None of this other stuff helps dispersion. It helps other stats on here. For example, recon, just real quick. Hey, I want to know what recon does for my view range. I'm at 337. Ooh, that's terrible. Give me recon. 344. Okay. Not a whole bunch more, but some. Okay. Let's back up to dispersion. We're not going to worry about anything but the top gun on this, all right? But you could move the guns around and check what the dispersion, how the dispersion changes on the different guns. But realize that now you're getting the alpha trade-off and the DPM trade-off and all the other pen values and everything else. So we're trying to keep this just to that big derp that we're talking about. So now we come over here and we say, all right, what of this equipment helps my dispersion? Well, in general, it's anything that helps the crew, and it is neither, and I don't think this tank has it, so we may have to look at it. Here's the gun lane drive. Plus 10% to aiming speed, all right? Aiming speed. That's the speed at which the circle goes to your best dispersion, but it doesn't change the dispersion. Okay, does that make sense? Here's your dispersion, and without the gun lane drive, you know, it moves like this, and with the gun lane drive, it's 10% faster. No, that's not 10%, but you get the picture. But it only ever goes down to the maximum or best accuracy, okay? However, because apparently the crew is considered part of the weapons system in regards to their calculations, I can take that 0.56, give a improved ventilation class 2, and bring it down to 0.55. Wow, that's pretty cool. Now I go look here. Any other equipment that can help me? No, not for dispersion. That's for aiming time. We'll talk about the vertical stabilizer in a minute. And what else? Crew. Oh, I know what else crew like, especially German crew. They like extra combat rations. Okay, or Russian crew. Yeah, that's right. What do the Germans like? I can't remember what they like, but the Russians like to eat. That always made me laugh. The Russians get just some extra food. Comrade, here's more rice. Yeah, but I want a bagel or a coffee or cola. No, here's another hardtack. Eat it. Okay, plus 10%, 0.53. Help to the crew. Good to go. Well, what else? I want to get more accurate. Oh, here's one people don't talk about a lot. Directives. A directive that helps the crew. Vent purge. Let's add that. 0.52. Now we're talking. Now, this was the question, of course, that came from Nona. Did I actually put the improved one on there? No, I did not. There's actually a better venting system Okay, instead of 5%, it's 0.75. So let's drop that bad boy on there. Wait a minute, 0.52. What the heck? So it doesn't matter if I have the regular or the improved? Well, there's more digits there, right? Okay, there's 0.001, 0.005. You know, you've got to do the math there, do the round up, round down. How far out digit-wise the engine takes into account? Is this actually more accurate, or is 0.52 0.52? And because I couldn't trip it down to 0.51 with my 2.5% addition with the better vents, I don't get any more accuracy? I can't answer that question. So that is an interesting one right there. But it looks like in game terms on that number right there, this is about the best that I can get with the KV2 DERP. Dropping that thing down. And then you can obviously use this same system to check other things. We're at a reload time of 20.88. That's terrible. We've helped it a bit with all this stuff. So what else do we need to reload well? We need to go ahead and put the large caliber tank rammer on that bad boy. And then it becomes questions of, is there any other thing here? Nope. There's only some ways to improve my speed. And with the engine power, turret and traverse. So those can change as well. We won't dive into that. You can practice and check that out. But maybe I want to reload faster than I'm worried about this 0.52 thing. So if I remove this, it brings me back to 0.53. And I say, you know what, I'd rather reload faster. I'm going to go ahead and put an orderly ammo rack directive on there. And in fact, I'm going to use my bonds, and instead of using this one, the regular rammer, I'm going to go ahead and put on the innovative system. So I've traded a little bit of accuracy for getting down my reload time to as good as it's going to get at 17.93. Okay, so great tool. Those are some of the ins and outs. You got to watch those numbers, realize sometimes there's trade-offs on which piece of equipment it is that you want. I did say we'd look at the, what is it, vertical stabilizer. Unfortunately, I think I've picked a couple tanks that don't have it. No, this one has it. All right, so VertStab, plus 20% accuracy during movement and turret rotation. So again, the vertical stabilizer does not improve the maximum accuracy that the gun can achieve with a fully closed aiming circle. All right, what it does is when you move, that thing blooms. Okay, when you fire, it blooms. When you move, it blooms. When the turret moves, the weapon system, the crew, the tank, the gun, when it's moving around, it's less accurate. It hasn't laid in the shot as well as it could. With a vertical stabilizer, it stabilizes the gun so that when you do those movement things, it doesn't bloom out to here, it only blooms out to here, which means it does in effect make it more accurate when you take a shot, when it's the circle's not that wide, but it doesn't make the maximum possible accuracy of the tank, fully laid in, tank stopped, yada yada yada, more. Does that make sense? Okay, it makes it less worse if you want to look at it that way. Whereas the gun laying drive makes the circle close faster. And that's just in layman's terms for the tank game, World of Tanks. All right, man, I hope that helped out some of you guys there. Really, at the end of the day, if you want to know if the equipment works, this is so easy. Just go in there and add some stuff. Put it on there. You know, take a look at what all the little goofy things are that you can add to your tank. And they might answer the question, do I want to put in a piece of improved equipment? I will make one warning at the end as I leave that it is possible in the future. They've talked about it. I have no essay about this. I'm not saying I know something, but they have talked about the fact that at some point they'll let you buy premium tanks with bonds, maybe special tanks. They have already done that for Clan Wars stuff, where if you are high enough, whatever, in the Clan Wars, instead of winning the tank, you've won the chance to use your bonds to get a tank. Maybe the common man like us who aren't doing Clan Wars might be able to do that too. So, you know, it's trade-off. Spend it on that or wait, and maybe you wait and you never get a tank. So I don't know. All right, guys, I'm out. That is it for Coffee Talk. I hope that explained it. I'm sure there was something in there I said wrong. Go ahead and make sure I know what it is down below, and we will see it. I just wanted to come back and add something right here because I was thinking about it and digging around a little bit, watching the thing I just did, making sure there weren't any big errors. There was one in the back there or in the beginning there that I already put a little scroll on at the bottom for you. This is interesting, and I'm not 100% certain what is going on with it, but I dug around in a few tanks. For example, I've got a 110 E4 here, and we're looking at dispersion of 0.35. I click on it. Brothers in Arms doesn't do anything for the dispersion. I come down here and I go venting system, and that gives me 0.34. I come over here and I put the coil on. I get to 0.32. I come over here. I've already got the improved version on it, so we're at 0.32. And I go to this directive and I add it, and it doesn't improve it. As a matter of fact, in the tanks that I looked at, I was never able to see an improvement to dispersion off of vent purge. So I don't know if they don't stack, or 2.5 isn't enough to move many of them. Maybe if I dug around long enough through the tanks, I would find one go down a 0.01, a 0.01 basically. So unknown right there, to be quite honest. This seems to have not much use, but it does change the aiming time. 2.52 down to 2.5. So it is having an effect. I assume it's having an effect on this dispersion. So either there's a hard stop on the most accurate you can get for each tank, or it doesn't stack for dispersion, or 2.5% after adding all this stuff isn't enough. And let's actually test this a little bit. Let's take some of this other stuff off, and we'll just go ahead and look at it at 0.34. I don't need paint. That's not what I'm talking about. Oh, I've got to have vents for that to work. So let's put the regular vent system on it. We're at 0.33. We take it off, and it doesn't seem to change it. Let's take the food off. Let's see if we can change it from 0.34 to... Okay, so it does have an effect, right? Depending on where you are math-wise, it is dropping it. So it may be that 2.5%, once you get it down that tight, you've got that much bonus on it already. 2.5%, it's difficult to visually see it come down, but probably depending on how many digits there are involved here, it is improving, unless there's a hard stop, and I have no proof for either one of those. So I just wanted to mention that because it was interesting. I dug around a little bit, and that's what was going on. If anyone has any insight down there, go ahead and let me know, but I suspect it's just that it doesn't show it because it's not enough to trip it down to 0.3, whatever it was. All right, that's all I got. Later, guys.